Finance Minister. Please, Dada, please. Please, Dada, please. Please, Dada, please. No. Please, Dada. Honorable Finance Minister. Please. Please, Dada.
So thank you very much for the opportunity to respond to the discussions on the supplementary demand for grants. I understand 43 members had spoken on the discussion. This is the first batch of supplementary, sir. And it covers over 83 demands and 3 appropriations. The appropriations include those for the President, the Supreme Court of India, and for the Union Public Service Commission. To make a beginning, I will repeat some of the things which are already mentioned in the supplementary demand for grants, which a copy of which all members have seen. These demands and appropriations, we are seeking the authorization of the Parliament for gross additional expenditure of 87,762.56 crores. The net cash outgo or cash supplementary is about 44,182.87 crores. The technical token supplementaries are also mentioned. Expenditure on capital account is something which I would like to take a minute to say that it is about 19,416.35 crores. The balance of 68.346.21 crore in the supplementary demand for grants is on the revenue account. So, not going further into the details, yesterday, I'm grateful that Honorable Member Jagadambika Palji had gone into the details of what this supplementary demand for grant is all about, where money goes, and why it is justified that this first supplementary has covered those amounts, and the total is far lesser than what a first supplementary had in the last year. So he had rightly placed the emphasis saying, look at where the money is going. It's going for farmers, it's going for the revenue expenditure of defense, but on farmers' account again, it is going for fertilizers and so on. So without spending more time on the details of those, I'd like to go back to the discussions itself and respond to the members and their seeking clarification so that we focus on the debate straight away. Sir, questions on the economy, Madam, I'm sorry, I keep referring to you as Sir. Madam, there were a lot of interest on the economy-related issues. Honorable members have asked questions about what is it about the economy that you can answer. We have got questions to ask. I'll try to address some of them. So, Madam, the real growth rate for Q1 and Q2 of this financial year 25 has been 6.7% and 5.4% respectively. At 5.4%, the Q2 rate is slower than expected. Many members observed it, many members commented on it, many members raised a doubt saying, is growth sustainable at all at the number that we projected in the BE? I'd like to touch upon some of the concerns. So, Q2 of this financial year has been a challenging quarter for India and for most other economies of the world. In last 3 years, India's GDP growth rate has averaged 8.3%. This is outstanding. I don't want to judge myself, I don't want to judge the ministry, but this is a number before us, and this is a number which you can see, compare it with the rest of the globe. And this number is an outstanding number by global standards. India has been the fastest growing major economy in the world, and the credit goes to the people of India who are struggling and meeting their aspirations, thereby contributing to the economy, and with the leadership which puts policy up front so that it responds to people and their aspirations as well. So the two wheels have moved adequately in synchrony, as a result of which you see the growth numbers. A different perspective for the same thing is something which I'd like to put before you, Ma'am Chairperson. Out of the 12 quarters in the previous 3 years, GDP growth rate was lower than 5.4%. GDP growth rate was lower than 5.4% in 2 quarters.
Please. As she gets involved.
I'm not able to understand, ma'am.
Ignore him.
Okay. So out of the 12 quarters in previous 3 years, GDP growth rate was lower than 5.4% in 2 quarters, quarter 4 of 21-22 and quarter 3 of 22-23. So it's important to understand that this drop happened just 2 quarters in the last 12 quarters that we're talking about. So let us not sort of pick on that one and predict future. This has been a steady growth and a steady sustained growth. So I'd like to place that perspective with the numbers before me. The regular union budget was passed by the newly constituted Lok Sabha post-parliamentary elections in middle of August 2024. Effectively, the implementation of new announcements of this government commenced after the Appropriation Act was passed by the Parliament in August 2024. Effectively, it is from August that we are starting to give emphasis to many of the things, inclusive of capital expenditure, and therefore we are now talking within 4 months after the full regular budget was presented in August. So the situation is no different from one seen in earlier years when parliament elections were conducted. So that's a very important consideration which I would like the honourable members to take on board. When annual Lok Sabha elections happen, those years do have a certain flow of resources, do have a certain ground-related expenditure happening, and when it picks up, the growth rate also picks up. But the blip is got to be understood in the broader context. So differences in alignments of festivities. This is an important consideration because even countries which have annually a Christmas festival mood or any other festival mood, there is a rise and dip in consumption and expenditure. So between September and October this year, particularly for India, in the previous and current year, created a modest downward bias for the Q2 growth, because I think there was 15 days where people do not spend, and which came very close to also the Dussehra vacation when people spend, and as a result, that quarter got affected by good spending fortnight and a not so good spending fortnight, both occurring during that quarter itself. So the government believes that the trend in quarter 2, 24-25, is only a temporary blip, and the economy will see healthy growth in the next quarters. Also, a generalized slowdown in manufacturing is not expected, as it is restricted to few sections only. Out of 23 manufacturing sectors, and this is an important fact that I would like to place for the consideration of honorable members, out of 23 manufacturing sectors in the index of industrial production, about half of them remain strong even now. So we need to put this in context. Capital expenditure of the union government has grown by 6.4% year on year between July-October 2024. So I'm very optimistic about improved performance going further and going forward. This addresses a large section of the MPs who spoke. I named some of them: Shri K.C. Venugopal, Saugata Roy, Anil Desai, N.K. Premchandran, Manish Tiwari, Lalji Verma, Saini Ghosh, Vishal Dada Patil, and Amar Singh. So all of them, different aspects of the economy did raise these points, so I thought I should upfront start with these. There was equally a lot of voice about inflation being very high. This was particularly raised by 4 members who have also raised the previous issues. Retail inflation, madam, declined to 4.8% in 24-25, April to October, compared to 5.4% in 23-24. This is the lowest since COVID-19 pandemic started. Lowest retail inflation. Core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, remains at 3.6 and is at a decadal low. It's a very important data which we have to take on board. And we in the union government remain committed to better managing of food inflation, where volatility in specific food items is weather-driven. Building buffers is one of the key performance which I can place here for members' consideration, particularly in key food items such as cereals, pulses, and distribution of food items like onions, rice, tuvar dal, wheat flour, gram, and so on. So these are happening through designated outlets at subsidized prices. I've spoken before on this. Bharat brand atta and Bharat brand dal is provided in essential commodities at an affordable price. The prices have been very reasonable, that the uptake is also very considerable. Bharat dal is available at 60 rupees per kg for 1 kg pack. Bharat atta costs 30 rupees per kg, and Bharat rice costs 34 rupees per kg, and they are available through particular outlets. Madam, the discussion again on the inflation is normally taken for the number that is revealed in the latest quarter, but I would again like to put a perspective before honorable members. Most often I've done this, and I think there is merit for us to look at it in this way, because it is important to understand the context and also the perspective to keep it as wide as possible. Madam, 1999 to 2004, headline inflation was controlled at 3.9%. The reason why I'm bringing this is something which I'll explain a bit later, but I'm laying the ground for that inference. Headline inflation was controlled at 3.9% between 1999 and 2004. Between 2004 and 2009, inflation surged to 5.6%, and again, come over, you can compare it with the previous 99 to 2004, which I'm talking about. But when you came to 2009 to 14, it spiraled to 10.2%, representing a catastrophic failure to control rising prices. Come again to 2014 to 24, inflation was brought back to 5.1%. The pattern that is emerging, if you look at it, for the last 25 years nearly, is NDA period times, inflation is well under control, whereas non-NDA, particularly UPA, it touches double digit. So let us not forget this pattern when we want to criticize one another about inflation and inflation control. Food, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. You
Senior.
can be similarly introspecting on the impact of COVID and the wars which are happening now.
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Food inflation, madam, similarly, food inflation was a modest 2.2 during 99-2004. 2004 to 9, it reached 6.5. 2009 to 14, it reached 11%. And 14 to 24, it's back to 5.3%. So the pattern is consistent. 25 years, you split it between UPA or non-NDA and NDA, you see inflation is better controlled under NDA regimes. Madam, Honorable Member Manish Tiwari, I can't see him here, but I would like to respond to him, was talking about fuel inflation. I quite appreciate his concern, because this can affect poorer families as well. I want to place the data before. Under UPA 2, the fuel inflation was 8.9% compared to the 10 years between 2014 to 24, which is at 4.4%. But I just want to highlight the fact for Honorable Member Manish Tiwari's question. He talked about the LPG cylinder, and I'm sure this is something which most members will be interested in knowing about. Under the Congress, LPG cylinders were a privileged and scarce commodity. Before April 2014, nearly 45% of the Indian households didn't have access to clean cooking fuel. In contrast, madam, LPG coverage under the NDA has reached near saturation. Total domestic active LPG customers have more than doubled from 14.52 crore in April 2014 to 32.65 crores as of June 2024. Madam, an approximation, I'm not giving an exact number, it is expected, or approximation is, there are 33 crore households in this country, approximate, and 32.65 crore have got LPG cylinder connection. Near saturation in making sure gas cylinders reach every household. So I must credit the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas for having taken this distribution of LPG to households. Since after Ujjwala came in, we have made sure that many of those families which gave up the extra cylinder on Honorable PM's nudge that he gave, saying, please, those who don't need the subsidy, give it up. Many people gave it up. But Ujjwala grew as much as also the others who don't need Ujjwala. So total saturation is 32.65 crores. And from among this number, 10.33 crore Ujjwala beneficiaries